Australia Day. January 26, 1788, is the day Captain Arthur Phillip arrived on Australian soil with the first fleet of British boats. He raised the British banner at Sydney Cove to guarantee New South Wales as a British colony. This day denotes the start of a long and fierce colonisation of individuals and land. On the 26th of January every year, individuals in Australia are approached to praise a public occasion, presently called Australia Day. Yet, Australia Day festivities are not by and large embraced by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander individuals, just as some non-Indigenous individuals. For some, First Nations individuals, this day is perceived as Survival Day or Invasion Day. Since from this day in 1788 onwards, First Nations individuals endured slaughters, land burglary, taken youngsters and far-reaching mistreatment because of the colonizing powers. For First Nations individuals, the 26th of January is a day of grieving the set of experiences that followed the means of Captain Arthur Phillip and the First Fleet. There are numerous reasons why the 26th of January and Australia Day are dubious, agonizing and horrible for First Nations individuals. A ton of Australians have some thought regarding the savage and decimating history of colonization in Australia since 1788. However, undeniably less comprehend that expansionism and the impacts of colonization actually exist today. Furthermore, that the tradition of bigotry works out in each part of Australian culture. Australia Day has changed over time. Australia didn't turn into a country until 1901, when the 6 British settlements joined to shape the Commonwealth of Australia. In 1931, the Victorian government approved a proposition to make the Monday closest to the 26th of January a public occasion called Australia Day, shaping a long end of the week. By 1935, different states and domains continued in the framing of a long end of the week, close to the 26th of January. It wasn't until 1994 that the 26th of January was pronounced a public occasion. Australia Day professes to be tied in with binding together all Australians, but incidentally, it's a disruptive day for certain individuals. For some individuals, Australia Day is tied in with praising the qualities, opportunities and distractions of our country. It's a period for BBQs in the lawn, enjoying a lager with mates and gladly flying the banner. By all accounts, Australia Day is by all accounts about bringing together all Australians, but then incidentally, it's a troublesome day for certain individuals. So what's all the fight about? What's Australia Day and for what reason do we praise it? Australia Day is a public occasion on the 26th of January, the commemoration of the appearance of the First Fleet in Australia. On that day in 1788, 11 convict ships from Great Britain arrived at Port Jackson in New South Wales, where Governor Arthur Phillip raised the British banner to flag the start of the British colony. Since the beginning of the British state, Sydney has denoted the 26th of January utilising different names, like Anniversary Day, First Landing Day and Foundation Day. This progressively advanced into Australia Day, and different states and regions authoritatively received the name in 1935. In spite of the fact that festivals initially focused on the commemoration of the British control of New South Wales, since 1979, the central government started advancing an Australia Day that was not so much British but rather more Australian, in the expectation of binding together Australia's inexorably different population. 1. Australia Day at last turned into a public occasion in 1994. As per the National Australia Day Council, it's the day to consider what we have accomplished and what we can be glad for in our incredible country. It's the day for us to commit once again to making Australia a stunningly better spot for what's to come. What's the pressure encompassing Australia Day? For some Indigenous Australians, the 26th of January isn't a day for celebrating. Native individuals might be similarly as pleased with this country, yet many see January 26th as a date meaning the start of dispossession, infection scourges, outskirts brutality, annihilation of culture, misuse, detachment of families and coercion to arrangements of extraordinary social control. Subsequently, a few Australians, counting numerous Indigenous individuals, allude to January 26th by different names, like Invasion Day, Survival Day and Day of Mourning. Would it be a good idea for us to change the date, save the date, or drop it altogether? This inquiry can be trying, as there are a wide range of viewpoints from both Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander individuals and non-Indigenous Australians. Saving the date implies proceeding to commend a date that is agonizing for some individuals. Changing the date or dropping the date doesn't address the injury and disservice that began at colonization and still influences Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander individuals today. On the off chance that we basically settle on a decision and proceed onward, we pass up on the chance to comprehend where we've come from, where we are today, and where we go from here. Becoming familiar with our country's common history among Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander individuals and non-Indigenous Australians can help you answer this inquiry for yourself. Wouldn't we be able to all celebrate being Australian? You may have heard it said, or even pondered yourself, for what reason are Indigenous individuals making this an issue? All things considered, isn't Australia Day for all Australians to meet up and observe? Others see the Evaluate of Australia Day festivities as inordinate apparent sensitivity and governments pandering to the impulses of minorities. It's actual, that is Australians, we ought to have the option to meet up and commend the things about our country that we're pleased with and appreciative for. Notwithstanding, commending these things on the 26th of January can partition us as Australians by minimising and culpable numerous Indigenous individuals who consider this to be as starting a chain of occasions that had grievous ramifications for some Indigenous individuals. The negative impacts of colonisation keep on truly affecting the existences of numerous Indigenous Australians as intergenerational injury, generational destitution, well-being difference, detachment from culture, vanishing of language, family partition, social segregation, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. Native entertainer and author, Nakia Lee, clarifies. I'm an Aboriginal lady in her 20s. However, it's just 4 ages back that my family felt the immediate results of outsiders attacking our property. There's my extraordinary distant grandma, who endure a slaughter, my incredible granddad, who was constrained back to the mission after his dad passed on and wasn't permitted to claim land, my granddad, who was given canine labels, directing he was an privileged white man, after he got back from being a wartime captive in World War II, my mom, who was urged to not completion secondary school since she was Aboriginal. This is the reason, as far as we might be concerned, Australia Day is a day of grieving. Intrusion Day. For the individuals who mark January 26th as Intrusion Day, this date addresses the British control of Indigenous land. Attack Day occasions are held the nation over and regularly incorporate fights and walks dismissing the Festival of Australia Day on this date and calling for sway and social equity for Indigenous Australians. Australia Day is the 26th of January, a date whose solitary importance is to check the coming to Australia of the white individuals in 1788. It is anything but a date that is especially satisfying for Aborigines, sick. Aboriginal lobbyist Michael Mansell. Day of Mourning. Others remember January 26th as a day of mourning, recognizing the brutality of the frontier wars, including slaughters, rape and murder, just as injury brought about by government approaches of digestion and partition which eliminated numerous individuals from their territories, families and culture. The main Day of Mourning and Protest was organized by spearheading Aboriginal rights dissident, William Cooper, in 1938, during Sydney's 150th anniversary festivities. Day of Mourning protests have been hung on January 26 from that point forward. On January 26, Aborigines, sick, from the nation over will grieve. We will likewise require the race-based festivals of January 26 to find some conclusion and for another date to be picked, so we can all gladly wave our banners and commend the great country that we presently share. Nala Mansell McKenna, Aboriginal activist, 5. I won't celebrate, and each Australia Day my heart is broken as I am helped that in the eyes to remember many, I am not greeting on my own property. Nakia Lee, Aboriginal actor and writer. Endurance Day. Still others observe January 26 as Survival Day, a chance to recognize the endurance of Indigenous individuals and culture despite colonization and segregation. Endurance Day occasions incorporate celebrations observing Indigenous culture, investing wholeheartedly in Indigenous accomplishments and displaying Indigenous craftsmen and artists. These occasions by and large have a more certain vibe than Invasion Day and Day of Mourning occasions.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Life is Often if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.